And now here's where we all act surprised again that a James Cameron movie was supposed to be either impossible or a boondoggle that bankrupted everyone turns out to be good and successful because James Cameron is some kind of superhuman force of nature and luck-blessed star child no one should ever bet against under any circumstances ever. Sequel to Terminator that equals or perhaps surpasses the original? He did that. Titanic, a movie that was supposed to ruin both of its studios with an out-of-control budget, unproven young stars, and two genres wildly out of fashion at the time, i.e. disaster epics and young adult romance. Highest grossing movie ever at the time, and complete Oscar domination. Decent live-action anime adaptation? Yeah, he did that, and he didn't even have to direct it himself. He just hands Robert Rodriguez his notebooks and was like, hey, Shark Boy, do something with this. I gotta go do more boat stuff. You know, speaking of boat stuff, takes his millions, invested in inventing new submarines, and uses it to advance the field of ocean research and sets a record for human exploration and endurance that literally cannot be broken by another human until someone finds a lower bottom point to the ocean. Then he comes back and makes an alien cat people versus space colonialism movie that everybody makes fun of for being too simple, cutesy-poo environmentalism fantasy derivative, dances with Pocahontas, Gully Smurf, whatever, and it still made $1 billion global, a bunch of awards nominations, and its own Disney park. And now he's back with a sequel 13 years later, and you're surprised it's good?
James Cameron doesn't do what James Cameron does for James Cameron. James Cameron does what James Cameron does because James Cameron is James Cameron.
His name is James Cameron.
And that people are into it even if you didn't remember the character names or most of the plot points. Where have you been? The dude doesn't miss. I mean, you don't have to like that fact. He's actually kind of super arrogant about it, so it's kind of frustrating at times, honestly, but it's the truth. Never bet against James Cameron. He's gonna win, and he's gonna rub your nose in it and make you feel like an asshole about it. Anyway, yeah, the new Avatar is about as good as the first Avatar. Yeah, didn't mean to bury the lead there, but yeah, it's good. Probably a little better overall. You know, the most interesting thing is it actively avoids feeling even a little bit like some kind of legacy event sequel to something people may or may not have been waiting 11, 13, whatever years for. Pretty much picks up where we left off with the barest hint of a however many years later title card and jumps right the hell back into the story with zero expectation that anyone watching might not have recently rewatched the first one. So, you know, you probably should, because otherwise you will be fucking lost if you give a shit, and therefore require any kind of catch-up as to who anyone is, where we are, or what happened last time until it needs to come up for what's going on now. It's like James Cameron went down into that water about a decade ago, came back up like, okay, hope everyone's been thinking exactly as much about Avatar as I have, right? Because I got some ideas, motherfucker. To wit, we're back on Pandora. Jake Sully and Neytiri, having won their war and driven off the humans, got themselves busy and had exactly enough time to raise a trio of babies, plus an adopted human orphan and a female Avatar birthed from Sigourney Weaver's inert Avatar, conceived by mysterious unknown means and seemingly blessed with shamanic superhuman powers. Yep, we're doing one of these again, but just not all the way in this one, because Jimmy's got the Disney money now, so you're guaranteed a bunch more of these movies, but it only lasted a couple years because the humans not only came back, but they've gone and resurrected the original bad guy Quaritch and his space marines as Avatar bodies like Jake's of their own, using their dead cloned memories. I want to say I think the first one might have mentioned why they didn't just do this for Jake's dead twin brother instead of having to use him and necessitating the entire plot of the franchise in the first place, but whatever, that's our setup. Eventually. Quaritch is back because now the unobtainium has been mined and humanity wants to full out colonize Pandora instead of just looting its resources. The bad guys need someone to get aggressive with the natives. He's got a personal grudge with Jake and Neytiri for killing him, so for the good of the clan, they take off across the ocean to lay low with a different race of Na'vi who are, I guess, more catfish than monkey cat, or maybe they're just really big brine shrimp. So eventually you got a two-track narrative running that's basically the more interesting second act of part one, again remixed twice over. The teenage Sully kids having to do a version of their dad's outsiders integrating into a new tribe arc as they eventually have to adjust from flying and tree climbing to swimming and fish riding stuff with their new clan, plus the expected young adult romance bullying my fish car is cooler than your fish car business, while Quaritch and his guys eventually master their own Na'vi Na'vi abilities to hunt them down for the big Act 3 confrontation, where it eventually comes up that the water Na'vi are all about whales in the same way that the forest Na'vi were all about trees, and the Pandora whales are kind of an unobtainian unto themselves, apparently. And there's also an evil corporation out to get that Quaritch can use to his advantage. Eventually is definitely the operative word here. Just like last time, the storytelling here is as deliberate Saturday morning retro as Cameron's almost charmingly children's museum from the 90s version of environmentalism, i.e. the first movie, Save the Rainforest, this movie is Save the Whales, the next one I assume is Sort Those Recyclables. You know, like, it's a long movie despite following extremely familiar story beats and featuring almost comically archetypal characters, because it's much more concerned with journey than destination, which, you know, is pretty much the answer to both how did they get a whole ass theme park out of just that one movie a decade ago, and why make more of them in the first place when people only remember that it was pretty looking. Because it turns out when you do a good enough job, sometimes good enough is enough. Like when you can almost feel the movie itself breaking its own fourth wall to say, guys, we know where all this is going, right? These beats are as old as the invention of fire. Relax, it's cold outside, chill. Watch the cat people swim through the glowy psychedelic coral and stuff. Later on, we're gonna shoot a bunch of guns off. It's gonna be awesome. If you had somewhere better to be, you'd be there. And I mean, it's almost kind of frustrating how well this stuff actually works, but it does. Do we really need a walking tour of how the different villages work, how all their fish business works, what every different glowy plant thing does, all the different new guns and mech suits and hardware and boats and whatever? No, but it's all cool, and you know it can't be real, but it sure looks real, and they really know how to blow it up real good. It's 5 or 6 cycles of here's the pretty stuff, feel good about it, here's the military tech blowing all the pretty stuff up, feel bad about that, and now the good guys beat up the bad guys for blowing up the pretty stuff, feel vindicated, repeat. And like I said, I want to be more hypercritical about that in hindsight, but I also in hindsight know it was working while I was watching it, because I wasn't thinking, well, this is very familiar. I was thinking, you know, I'm kind of invested in whether or not this annoying teenager whose name refuses to stick can impress the chief's daughter whose name also refuses to stick. And also, the mech suits are crabs now because ocean, that's sick. You know, I mean, when it's working, it's working. If there's a quibble, it's with the stuff that feels more like a concession to the recent everything is serialized franchise storytelling than the more old school stuff. You know, like an oh come on decision involving a character's fate in the finale that only seems to make sense from a we're not done with the franchise yet perspective, and the refusal to actually pay off the extremely obvious mystery about young Sigourney's character and her superpowers while also making it very central to the finale and not really that mysterious to anyone paying attention and who's seen a movie before. But I mean, you know, I can't deny that it works. It's good. I didn't feel as long as it was. Nobody does action on this scale that looks this clean and cool anymore. The inventiveness of the visual scope just keeps doubling up, and it's genuinely impressive how sincerely committed it all is to delivering all the way on both ends of the badass futuristic military hardware is awesome end, and the woo-woo eco-pantheist Gaia worship alien catgirls win the day with Stone Age tools and Earth magic shit all the way in equal measure. It's just looking great, really involving. You end up having a great time with it. It should probably be more of a 7 just on narrative, but you can't deny experience matters. The 3D even is just the best 3D that I've seen since the first Avatar, yeah. So give this one an 8, just don't make me wait another 13 years, okay, Jimmy? I mean, I want to see like what the sand people do or whatever.
You mean like from Star Wars?
No.